Hey, what's up everybody and welcome back to the Whiskey Cove, where the pours are strong, the shirts are loud, but the opinions are always honest. Today, we are diving into 8 bourbons under $50 that drink expensive, but will also blow your mind. Whether you're balling or on a budget, or just love a good value pour, this list is for you. Run the video. All right then folks, thank you for joining us for another new and exciting episode here on the Whiskey Cove, where we will be diving into 8 bourbons that are below $50 in price but taste very expensive. With that being said, talking of expensive whiskey, we have a 10,000 subscriber giveaway where you can win fantastic whiskey and bourbon just like that. After this video, go down below, check out all the information. You have to be 18, you have to be a subscriber, and it's completely free for you. With that being said, first bottle on this list. And this list is not complete without Old Forester 1910. So Old Forester 1910 is a little bit of a staple here down in the Whiskey Cove, coming in at 46.5% ABV or 93 proof. Apparently, the mash bill on this is going to be roughly around 72% corn, 18% rye, and then 10% malted barley. This is from Louisville, Kentucky, from the Old Forester Distillery, and it has a lot of great tasting notes with this whiskey. Of course, 1910, if you don't already know, is like a double oaked or a toasted finished whiskey. It starts this journey in a new charred American oak barrel down in Louisville, Kentucky. And then after that, they put it into a new charred American oak barrel, which is extra charged, so to speak, because the original char just simply wasn't good enough. And what does that benefit this whiskey? Well, I can tell you right now, it's a very dessert forward whiskey. It is very syrupy. It has a lot of brown sugar, dark chocolate, plums, raisin, dates, some of the deeper notes. It's a great whiskey that I like to drink. If I've had a big meal, I'm looking at maybe a dessert on my side eye on the menu, but I want something that helps cut through some of the heavier notes of a big meal. And that's where this whiskey absolutely shines for me. I think if you're talking a whiskey that exemplifies beyond its price point, this is right in line, I feel like, $50. I think this is $49.99, of course, and you can speak to the whole list on this. Prices will vary, and this is just the perfect whiskey or bourbon for this list. That is Old Forester 1910. It's going to cost you around $49.99 depending on location. A great bottle of whiskey for bottle number 1. For bottle number 2, and that is Btown Bourbon Company, because they have a bottled in bond wheated bourbon. Here on the Whiskey Cove, we absolutely love wheated bourbons, and Bardstown absolutely knock it out of the park for this bottle. So for me personally, I hadn't tried this bottle for so long. A lot of subscribers, a lot of commenters were saying, you need to have this bottle, you need to try it. I bought it, I tried it at a bar first because we're smart, and it blew my socks off. Not only does it come in a nice fancy bottle, but of course, as the name would suggest, for it being bottled in bond, that is 50% ABV or 100 proof. The mash bill on this is undisclosed, so we're not quite sure on that, but it has big vanilla, caramel, and honey notes there. Maybe a little bit of graham cracker too, with some bacon spices, and just a really nice thick texture there too. Like I said, I really like the Bardstown bottles because when I'm drinking the bottled in bond bourbon or the bottled in bond wheated bourbon, which is the one we're talking about here, it kind of reminds me of the $100 to $150 $200 specialty releases that they do. I think they do some very good stuff from Btown Bourbon Company, but if we're talking about some really great whiskey that drinks definitely more expensive, then the bottled in bond bourbon is exactly where it's at, and then the bottled in bond wheated bourbon is one step above that. So right in line with the price point of $49.99, again, sliding under there. But if you haven't tried this whiskey, you are missing out. That is bottled in bond bourbon by Bardstown Bourbon Company, wheated bourbon. Bottle number 3 on this list, and that is Doc Swinson's Blender's Cut. So the price on this will somewhat vary a little bit more, but it's going to cost you around $45. It is, of course, sourced from MGP, but it takes a special skill to source barrels from MGP that are not single barrels and then make them into a small batch release. And that's exactly what Doc Swinson's do. Jesse Parker, we've had on this channel, and he talks a lot of great stuff about whiskey and his background from a culinary background too. And the way that they blend the MGP barrels that they get, it needs to be of note to a lot of people who drink whiskey. Like I said, $45, it's going to come in roughly around 50% ABV, 100 proof. That can vary from time to time. There is a typical undisclosed mash bill, but we assume that it involves a little bit of wheat, a little bit of corn, a little bit of malted barley. We don't know because they're always constantly blending it. But they come in with an excellent and unique product too. So the blender's cut they usually use, it's kind of like the baseline to finish on other whiskeys. As you can see here, I have a lot of Doc Swinson's, and the Doc Swinson's bourbon is always the blender's cut to begin with, and then they finish it in an Oloroso, they finish it in a rum barrel, in a whatever barrel you like, because they have multiple different ones. We also do a bunch of great rice too, but like I said, $45 for the blender's cut, MGP, very well blended. That is bottle number 3. Bottle number 4, and that is Russell's Reserve 10-year. So Russell's Reserve 10-year has been getting a little bit of publicity lately because some of the laser codes on the bottle might represent older distillate. So we know for the 10-year age statement it has to be at least 10 years old. 45% ABV or 90 proof. I would like that to be closer to the 50% ABV or 100 proof. But what are you getting with this bottle? So it's very findable. You can find it absolutely everywhere. 75% corn, 13% rye, and then 12% malted barley is going to be the mash bill. Price point around $40 to $45, but honestly, I feel like you can find it on sale quite a lot, and even into the mid-30s. That's what I see them quite a lot here in Colorado. For out of the Wild Turkey Distillery in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, you're gonna get a lot of different tasting notes. It's going to be a lot of bacon spices. That's kind of a lot of what Wild Turkey do. So maybe orange zest too. So you're going to get the citrus coming through. But at a 10-year age statement, you're going to get a lot of wood there. And what I really like about this bourbon is you have the spice, you have some creamy vanillas, you have some citrus, and then the wood adds to it. So it's a very well and balanced, findable, affordable whiskey that drinks absolutely above its price point, and that's why it deserves this point as bottle number 4 on this list. And bottle number 5, and I know there's probably a lot of people waiting for this bottle, and that is Four Roses single barrel. So we're not talking about the Four Roses barrel strength single barrel here. We're talking about the entry level Four Roses single barrel. So the ABV on these are 50% ABV or 100 proof. Price point MSRP is $48. So sliding right there. And yes, this is a list of whiskey under or bourbon under $50. And the general better whiskey is more closer to $50, which is why we're kind of hugging that price point really high here. So mash point, so the mash points vary on yeast strains, on the different distillate that they use. So the one that I picked out was the OBSV because that is my favorite one to choose from this list. 60% corn, 35% rye, and then 5% malted barley. And for you whiskey purists out there, you're probably thinking, that's quite a high rye mash bill. And that's true because it lends to the flavor of this whiskey. It's of this bourbon, I should say. It's very high rye. This is what you classify as a high rye bourbon. And it does drink spicy. It does drink herbal. You have to play around with the different mash bills, the different yeast strains. And if you go into a store, you find a Four Roses single barrel. They usually have the tags and they will tell you about the different strains and the different flavor notes. So maybe you should pick one that you recognize as maybe a flavor profile that you like. But for OBSV from the Four Roses Distillery in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, much like the Four Roses, I have a lot of cherry, pear, cinnamon, some floral notes, more spice, a lot of wood there too. And like I said, more high rye with this. If you don't like rye, don't go with the high rye mash bills, would be my recommendation. That was bottle number 5 of the Four Roses single barrel. And generally, like I said, MSRP is around $48, but I've seen them in Sam's Club and in Costco for sub $40, which is a fantastic price. So definitely keep your eyes open for this bottle if you shop at the kind of the big ticket or the big warehouse stores there. Bottle number 6 on this list, and we are heading back to Lawrenceburg, Kentucky for the 3rd time in a row. But we're not going to Four Roses this time, we're going back to Wild Turkey, and that is a Wild Turkey rare breed, coming in at an MSRP of around $47. And I know there are some spots in the US and that can be jacked up a lot, but that's more the store's jacked up price in compared to the MSRP. ABV on this is 58.4% or 116.8 proof. Mash bill, 75% corn, 13% rye, and then 12% malted barley. What do I like about this bottle? Like I said, barrel strength or cask strength, whatever it is that you like to call these sort of ABVs. It drinks so tame for the ABV, but that doesn't subtract from the flavor profile. So you got a lot of caramel, vanilla, that traditional turkey funk of bacon spices, of some woody notes there too, some black pepper, and just a really thick and viscous mouthfeel. I think of the whiskeys that are all bourbons on this list, if we're talking about mouthfeel, Old Forester 1910 and this Wild Turkey rare breed are some of the best on this list. The finish on this is everlasting, and it being a higher ABV, I feel like you're only going to have a little bit of it at a time, so it's going to go further in terms of money. You're not going to drink it as fast as something that's maybe an 80 proof, so to speak. So Wild Turkey rare breed is an absolute hitter on this list, and that is bottle number 6. For bottle number 7, and this is a bourbon, I feel like that doesn't really get discussed much on the Whiskey Tube. So that is Bulleit Blenders Select. So Bulleit Blenders Select is something that gets released every now and again. More so in the last year, it hasn't really been pumped out as much. But as someone who likes the whiskey hunt, I see it still quite a lot. And I would say this is the best blended distillate that Bulleit put out. This isn't their own distillate, maybe they might add some into it, but this is all mostly sourced, but much like the Doc Swinsons, they're able to blend it at a very high level. So coming in right below that $50 margin, it is $49.99. 68% corn, 28% rye, and then 4% malted barley. So you do get a little bit of rye in there, so it really adds to the character of the bourbon, because I feel like sometimes if you get a nice bourbon, but it has a really low amount of rye, the body can feel a little thin. It drinks a little light. So I feel like you do need to have a higher bit of rye, and I think the Blenders Select from Bulleit is able to balance out the decent amount of rye, but then also a good amount of corn that makes those sweeter notes sit up a little bit. So sourced from Diageo and Bulleit, but mostly from Kentucky, but also from MGP too. There's rumors that it could be Four Roses blended with MGP. So that's kind of what you're looking like with that balance of rye and the high corn, maybe mash bill from MGP. Tasting those, again, more citrus, rye spice, vanilla, cherry, and a toasted caramel note to boot, and then a smooth and peppery finish towards the back end there. So ABV, it could be traditionally 47.5% or proof 95, but that can vary again from year to year. However, what I will say, if you see this bottle, you should definitely pick it up, because I'm not sure if it's going to come back anymore. I'm hoping that it will continue to be made, but it's not going to be made in the same step that it previously has been, because Diageo, or Bulleit, I should say, mostly producing more of their own stuff. Think of the Bulleit Bottled in Bond, that is more of their stuff. So if you like the traditional Bulleit more than you like that Bulleit Bottled in Bond, this bottle is absolutely for you. And that was bottle number 7, Bulleit Distillers Select. So then the last bottle on this list, and one of my favorites, that is Maker's Mark 101. We could have gone for the Maker's Mark 46 cask strength. We could have gone for the Maker's regular cask strength. But there's something about the Maker's Mark 101, for me personally, that just hits a special note. So a lot of what Maker's Mark do is generally, you know, the Maker's Mark 46, the regulars Maker's Mark, or they jump up then to the cast strength release stuff, the private barrel, which is like 56% ABV or so. But the 101, I feel like is a very nice, peculiar sweet spot for makers, because they generally don't do anything right around that ABV or proof. So coming in on maybe one of the lower prices on this list, $39 or $39.99 is a great price for this. And if you don't know much about Maker's Mark and how they do their mash bills, there is only one mash bill. A lot of the fun stuff that they do is usually the barrel staves. So the mash bill for this is the 70% corn, 16% red winter wheat, and 14% malted barley. Yes, this is a wheated bourbon. The distiller is obviously Maker's Mark from Loretto in Kentucky, with sweet caramel, vanilla, some cinnamon, bacon spices there too, some soft fruit, maybe some tart red apples and some pears hanging on in there to the back end, but smooth and a nice creamy and rich mouthfeel without any of the burn. I feel like even though a lot of the Maker's Marks are private selects, the Maker's Mark special wood finishing series are very tasty, but some of the proof can kind of shine through and subtract some of the awesome rich mouthfeel notes that you get from the Maker's Mark 101, which is why I specifically want to have this bottle on this list, and that's why we selected it as the bottle number 8. So that is 8 bottles for me personally, here down in the Whiskey Cove, where I feel like the price point is below $50 but drinks like an expensive whiskey. So hopefully you've got some value from this list. And now that the video has ended, don't forget to go down below, check out the description so you can win some of these awesome bottles. It costs you nothing. You have to be a subscriber and you have to submit your ticket. With that being said, if there's anything that I've missed, definitely let me know down below. If there's a $50 or less bottle that you feel like drinks like an expensive bottle, then comment down below and let's talk about it. As we say on the channel, thank you so much for watching as we drink through the world's whiskies, one glass at a time. Cheers.